Back on Sportsbook, Pauly and Teddy, betting insight today. Time for a big game breakdown, as always, live on sportsbookreview.com. 9:30 in the morning Pacific, Thanksgiving Day, the Vikings and the Lions, huge game for first place in the North. Both teams 6-4. Lions 2.5, 43 the total. They win this game. They have a stranglehold on the division because it would essentially be a two-game lead because that's a sweep over the Vikings. They won 22-16 in Minnesota 3 weeks ago. Dead even game. Both teams averaged 5 yards per play. Bad clock management by the Vikings at the end. And Stafford made a long throw to set Praetor up from 58 to send it to overtime. They went right down the field with a walk-off win. Both teams, Teddy, can't run the ball.
No, not even a little bit. I mean, when you look at the numbers so far this season, the Lions averaging less than 80 yards per game. That's number 30 in the NFL. The Vikings only 70 yards per game. Dead last in the NFL. Yards per rush, Detroit at 28. And, of course, we've been talking about this all year on sports, but how Minnesota on pace for a historically low yards per rush average for the entire season. That 2.7 you're looking at right now on the graphic makes it very clear that's more than a half yard lower than the lowest team in the NFL in the last 5 years to run the football. So, I mean, neither team got to 4 yards per carry in the first meeting to slow down the other team's pass rush. And that may be the biggest issue here. You have Minnesota in revenge for a game they probably should have won. You know, it was the bad clock management at the end. Zimmer called the timeout a little bit too early near the goal line. The Lions, of course, got the opening kick in overtime, drove 87 yards for the touchdown to win the game. It's certainly a loss Minnesota's going to remember. But when you talk about the difference between these two, we have two teams that can't run the football. There is a huge difference between these two teams in terms of their pass rush. I mean, the Vikings got all over Carson Palmer on Sunday. 4 Minnesota pass rushers racked up 5 or more pressures. 9 from Everson Griffin, 3 hits, 6 hurries. 9 from Danielle Hunter, 2 sacks, 2 hits, 5 hurries. The Vikings pressured Carson Palmer on 27 of his 43 dropbacks, and, you know, they were the unit to wrap up the victory at the end of the game. It's certainly a problematic matchup for that Detroit offensive line.
Yes, Stafford counters this by getting the ball out early, 23 of 36 for 219 at Minnesota, only sacked once. You remember those Raider teams with Rich Gannon. Well, that's kind of what they're doing in Detroit, where they know they can't run, so they're using the running game by throwing short passes, and hell of a matchup, and I lean under in this one.
Yeah, I mean, look, Stafford's passer rating for the season is 101.2. You know, far above his career 87.1. It kind of mirrors the second half of last season under Jim Bob Cooter. We said, this guy's gotten it together. And, you know, when you look at the tweet right here from ESPN Stats and Info. Most game-winning drives in the fourth quarter overtimes in 2015. Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Eli Manning. That's not a bad list to be on, and not a bad list to be at the top of. Stafford had been very clutch. He was as clutch as it gets in the first meeting between these two teams. I know this much. I'm not laying points with Detroit, with Minnesota, off the momentum of last week's win and a little bit of revenge from a game they probably should have won earlier in the season.
Hey guys, for the full video, go to sbrpicks.com.
So we're giving you picks every day, and you're probably making your own as well. Be sure to participate in SBR's weekly Twitter Bankroll Challenge. Just post your picks on Twitter with @SBRSportsPicks and the hashtag BetSBR before 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day, Monday through Friday. We'll be betting your picks, and if the bankroll is positive at the end of the week, you could win the profits. Picks must be of events taking place that day and available in at least one of the major sportsbooks shown in our Best Sportsbooks page.